Hello, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast where we talk about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. I'm Marianne Matzo, a nurse practitioner, and I use my experience from working as a nurse for 47 years to help answer your questions about what happens at the end of life.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete, an actor in New York City, and here to offer an every-person viewpoint to our podcast. We're both here because we believe that the more you know, the better prepared you are to make difficult medical decisions. Also, this podcast does not provide medical nor legal advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
So welcome to this week's show. We're so glad to have you join Charlie and me for the next hour as we talk about normal pressure hydrocephalus, the disease that Billy Joel has been diagnosed with. This podcast is a combination of education and entertainment, otherwise known as edutainment, delivered in 3 halves. Our main topic's in the second half, so you can fast forward to that fat-free zone. That would be good if we had a fat-free zone.
Mm-hmm.
But you can fast forward to that chat-free zone if you'd like. In the first half, Charlie has a piece about Savannah Cemetery and our recipe of the week. In the second half, I'm going to talk about what normal pressure hydrocephalus is, treatments, and other details about this disease. And in the third half, Charlie has a poem about hope written by Joe Roedel. So, Charlie, what's new?
Actually, with your topic for this week's podcast, the illness Billy Joel has, I just remembered when the first time I saw him in concert. It was at the University of Michigan, this beautiful auditorium called Hill Auditorium. He played a few of the old songs, and then he dedicated the rest of the evening to his new album, The Stranger. So I heard Billy Joel play the album, which put him on the map, and in this just beautiful old acoustically perfect auditorium. And it just made me think of that. It was, talk about a magic night. It's just, it was spectacular. It really, really was.
I saw him too when I was young, and I can't, for the life of me, remember where I saw him. And it might have been in Ann Arbor. I don't know. But I remember going to see him. You know, when I was doing the research on this, his daughter with Christy Brinkley is 39 years old.
I know, it's crazy.
I read that and I went, what?
I know, it's nuts.
And I remember when my youngest was young, and the song that he does on Catholic Girls Start Much Too Late.
Right. Yeah.
And, my kids went to Catholic school, and so Julie says, what do the Catholic girls start too late with, Mom? And I said, we'll discuss that later when you're older. She was like in second or third grade. I thought, no, we're not having that chat right now.
No. So, in our first half, Everyone Dies heads out to Georgia this week as part of our summer road trip across the United States. Georgia is part of what is considered to be the Deep South, which also includes Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi, and Louisiana. They were the first states to secede from the Union before the Civil War. The first gold rush in America was in Georgia in 1828. The rush led to the Trail of Tears and to the Georgia land lotteries. Savannah, Georgia is consistently ranked as one of the most haunted cities in the United States, partly due to its role in the Civil War and several yellow fever epidemics. Colonial Park Cemetery has witnessed much of Savannah's history. Originally built in 1750, it quickly became the city's primary burial ground. During the cemetery's active years, it was the final resting place for prominent figures, soldiers, and citizens who shaped the early development of Savannah. The cemetery was officially closed for burials in 1853, marking the end of its function as the city's primary burial ground. Despite its serene appearance, many believe Colonial Park Cemetery has restless spirits, making it one of the most haunted places in Savannah. Throughout the years, stories of ghost sightings, mysterious orbs, and other supernatural phenomena have drawn visitors eager to uncover the cemetery's secrets. The blend of history and ghostly tales creates an atmosphere that continues to captivate those who walk its grounds, offering a unique glimpse into Savannah's darker past. Savannah's history with epidemics has left a lasting mark on Colonial Park Cemetery, adding yet another layer to its haunting reputation. Among the most devastating was the yellow fever outbreak of 1820, which swept through the city with alarming speed. Within a short time, hundreds of people succumbed to the illness, overwhelming the local infrastructure. In a desperate response to the sheer number of deaths, a mass grave was dug within the cemetery's grounds to accommodate the many victims. While historical records suggest that nearly 700 people were interred in this mass burial, oral histories and legends hint that the true number might have been significantly higher. The trauma of the epidemic left an indelible impression on Savannah's collective memory, and the mass grave became a symbol of the city's struggle during that dark period. The hurried burials and the grief of families unable to give their loved ones a proper farewell contribute to the lingering sense of unease that many visitors report feeling within the cemetery. This communal loss, paired with the stories of displaced graves and duels, adds to the belief that Colonial Park Cemetery holds more than just the physical remains of Savannah's past. It holds the echoes of those turbulent times. Today, visitors who walk near the site of the mass grave often speak of a peculiar stillness in the air, as if the tragedies of the past are waiting to be remembered. Georgia is also home to Coca-Cola. Therefore, our recipe this week is for a moist Coca-Cola cake. Inspired by the nation's favorite soda, is both rich and unexpectedly tangy. The infusion of cola gives the cake a unique depth and a distinct caramelized flavor. Its luscious texture and unforgettable taste will make it a hit at your next funeral lunch. Bon appetit! Please go to our webpage for this week's recipe for Coca-Cola cake and additional resources for this program. Everyone Dies is offered at no cost, but is not free to produce. Can we count on you to contribute? Your tax-deductible gift will go directly to supporting our nonprofit journalism so that we can remain accessible to everyone. You can also donate at www.everyonedies.org. That's every, the number one, dies.org, or at our site on Patreon under Everyone Dies. Marianne?
Thanks, Charlie. Billy Joel sent a message to his fans by way of Howard Stern. Yeah, you can tell people you know, I'm not dying. In May, Joel, who just celebrated his 76th birthday, said he's canceling the rest of his tour after being diagnosed with normal pressure hydrocephalus. So, even though it's not considered a terminal disease, I'm going to tell you about it anyway. Normal pressure hydrocephalus, which for the rest of this talk I will refer to as NPH, the initials of normal pressure hydrocephalus, affects 5% of elders over the age of 60, but more typically seen between the ages of 70 and 80 years old, and is worked up as a possible diagnosis for people who come in with symptoms of dizziness, confusion, and incontinence of urine, meaning they can't hold their urine. These three symptoms are the trifecta of symptoms considered to be the hallmark of this disease. As usual, we need to talk a bit about anatomy to explain NPH. So, hydrocephalus, which hydro means water, cephalus means head, is an increase of cerebral spinal fluid, CSF, in the brain. The brain has chambers called ventricles or cavities that hold fluid called cerebral spinal fluid. Its job is to cushion the brain and spinal cord. Our body makes just enough CSF each day and absorbs the same amount. NPH occurs if the normal flow of cerebral spinal fluid throughout the brain and spinal cord is blocked in some way. This could be due to a past injury, bleeding, infection, brain tumor, or surgery on the brain, or in many cases, the cause is unknown. When excess CSF builds up in the ventricles, they enlarge and press against nearby brain tissue. This extra fluid and pressure can lead to brain damage or NPH. The people who are at an increased risk for NPH are people older than age 60, have had a brain infection, head injury, brain tumor, undergone brain surgery, bleeding or infection of the brain, but like I said, often the cause is not known. So, the possible symptoms of NPH are general unsteadiness and loss of balance. People typically have an abnormally slow, unsteady, wide-legged walk. Their feet may seem to stick to the floor, called a magnetic gait. And if you look at some of the recent videos of Billy Joel, and in particular, there's one online where he's singing and twirling the microphone stand, and then he's moving it around, and then he falls. But if you watch that video or some of the recent ones, you see that he's moving sort of like, no offense to Billy Joel, but it looks like, like almost like a monster. You know how monsters walk straight-legged and their feet are real clunky. He has that look. And so when you know what you're looking for, you can see it in terms of how he was walking and being on stage. Another symptom is poor balance, falling, changes in the way you walk, forgetfulness, confusion, dementia. Now, dementia may not develop until late in the disorder. Often the first signs of dementia are difficulty planning, organizing, or doing actions for a task in the right order, called sequencing, thinking abstractly, and paying attention. Memory tends to be lost later in this disease. Mood changes, depression, difficulty responding to questions, and lack of bladder control. As you can see, its symptoms can be like those of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Earlier in my career, I would see people in nursing homes with these symptoms, and they wouldn't be worked up for possible treatment. Being old and confused and incontinent was considered a norm, and even though this is a treatable condition, elders were not evaluated for NPH. So, NPH is diagnosed by having a physical exam from your healthcare practitioner with a review of your symptoms, evaluation of the way you walk, a CAT or an MRI scan of your brain, a spinal tap to remove samples of your CSF. And how they do that is you lay on your side and they put a needle into, like between your vertebrae, into your spinal cord and pull out some of that cerebral spinal fluid. And what they'll typically do is temporarily put a drain in place when they're doing that spinal tap to see if prolonged spinal fluid drainage helps the symptoms. The treatment for NPH is surgery to place a tube called a shunt in the brain to drain the excess fluid. The shunt is usually inserted into a ventricle, one of those cavities in the brain, and then passes under the skin from your head, through your neck and chest to your abdomen. The extra fluid in your brain flows through the shunt into your abdomen, where the body absorbs it. The ventricles of your brain may then go back to the normal size. The shunt stays in place as long as there is too much CSF in the brain. The effects of this treatment may not be evident for several hours. The procedure may significantly improve the ability to walk and function and may lessen incontinence. However, mental function improves less and in fewer people. Early diagnosis is important so that people can be treated before the dementia develops. The life expectancy of people with NPH can vary depending on various factors, including the age of onset, overall health, and response to treatment. With early diagnosis and appropriate management, many patients experience a significant improvement in their symptoms and their quality of life. Implanting a shunt doesn't work for everyone, but many people do benefit from it. Unlike other dementia-like conditions, NPH is often reversible with a positive prognosis tied to early diagnosis and treatment. The longer NPH goes undiagnosed, the more likely the increase in pressure will result in severe or permanent brain damage. Getting prompt diagnosis and treatment helps improve your chances of a good outcome. And Billy Joel has nothing to worry about because only the good die young.
Well said.
You got any questions, Charles?
I mean, the brain, gee, that's like my second favorite organ.
I'm not even asking what your first favorite is.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, how, oh, brother, can anything be looked at in advance, or do people just wait until symptoms begin to develop?
Well, you're dealing with your brain, so you don't want to mess around with that.
Well, no.
There's no screening, if that's what you mean. But like Billy Joel was fortunate in that, I mean, I don't know if he's incontinent or if he has any brain changes, but you could certainly see it in his how he walks and how he moves, and that he actually fell on stage, and I don't know how many other times he's fallen. So he got a workup, let's hope, pretty early. But like I said, people can look at those symptoms and say, well, they're 75 years old. What do you expect?
Right, exactly.
Of course, they're going to be a little off balance. Oh, of course they might fall. Oh, yeah, they might be incontinent of urine. Well, none of those are a normal part of aging. If you have symptoms like that, you need to say, this isn't because I'm old. This is because maybe something else is going on. So you need to get thee to your healthcare practitioner and get worked up. Don't ignore it. Don't be ageist with your own self and say, well, I guess
it's just part of getting
how
older.
I am now.
Bullshit like
It's
that.
not.
Yeah. Well,
so
okay.
Yeah.
Incontinent of urine. What is that again, please?
When you can't hold your urine. So when
right. Okay.
Just it goes out your body without you
actually
being over a toilet.
Right. Okay, always good having these talks with you. Gosh, but you're right. Thank you. And actually, no, thank you for that. I make a joke like that, but it's Betty Davis. Old age is no place for sissies.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
But also, don't fall into the trap of being ageist and saying, "Well,
no." And that's very true.
Myself,
and that's very true because I do. I have several friends who are older and elderly, and when I point out just what you're saying, don't just blow it off. Or, the lame excuse, well, I'm just getting older. I'm sure it's nothing. No, it's people are going to make their own decisions. But when I point out to someone, what you're experiencing is not normal. Yeah, a lot of these folks just blow it off and wait until there's some, not that it's too late, but some disease or medical, physical thing has progressed, and then it becomes a little more difficult. Um,
Well, this is one of those diseases
yeah,
that if you wait too long, if the dementia starts, then the shunt may or may not help, but probably won't reverse the confusion.
right, right. Okay. For our third half, Hope is Quieter Than Fear by John Roedel. Hope is often so much quieter than our fear. You have to really listen closely to actually hear the voice of hope. Hope is the whisper between the screams. Hope is the nearly inaudible sound of your tears drying on the rose of your cheek. Hope is the hushed wind passing through a tall Wyoming pine. Hope is the noise of you softly exhaling while looking for the divine in the mirror. Hope is the sound of stars winking at us from across the cosmos. Hope is the babbling river. Hope is the snoring baby. Hope is the thumping heartbeat. Hope is the lightly beeping hospital monitor. Hope is the sound of butterfly wings moving in the spring. Hope is the noise ice makes as it melts on a lake. Hope is the gentle scratching of a flower as it claws its way out of the earth to sunbathe. Hope is never loud. Hope is never fussy. Hope is never announced. Fact, you might miss hope's arrival if you're not listening for it. Hope is more gentle piano than it is blaring saxophone. Hope is humble. Hope is stealthy. Hope doesn't wear a name tag. Hope is so often so silent. But that's what makes hope so powerful, because they can surprise us at a moment's notice. Hope is always present. It's the beat between music notes. It's the lip smack before the kiss. It's a deep breath before the eulogy. Hope is a quiet voice of love that is endlessly begging us to not surrender to the crawling shadows. And voice is always saying the same thing. Hold on, my love. Hold on, my love. If you give it a moment of silence, you will find that hope is a real chatterbox. It won't stop talking to you if you let it get started. Hope is everywhere, even in places where you won't expect to find it. It's in your rushing blood. It's in your unfolding wrinkles. It's in your hushed grief. Hope is relentless amid the noise of this clanging world. Just listen. I swear, my love, if you just listen to the whispering hope that surrounds you, I swear you'll never give up again. Please stay tuned for the continuing saga of Everyone Dies, and thank you for listening. This is Charlie Navarrete, and from singer and lyricist Joan Baez, hush, little baby, don't you cry. You know your mama was born to die.
And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we'll see you next week. Remember, every day is a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.